Check out the links in my description for more information, for more resources. Check out the podcast. Check out the Facebook groups. Just check out the links. There's a lot of great stuff there. Comment, rate, subscribe, share, like, dislike, whatever you want to do. This is my Dragon Ball Super Masterclass. Open hand. Explained. So the concept is simple. I'm using the fancy term open hand. It's a martial arts term, meaning that your hands are open palmed or open hand, not closed like a fist, but you have your hands open. So it's just trying to find a way to refer to the idea of revealing your opponent's hand. So pretty much these are cards that have effects that reveal your opponent's hand. So that's part of the effect that says your opponent reveals their hands, and then you do something like rip a card out their hand. So there's more than these. These are just the only ones I was able to fit on this app. There's plenty more, which is good that there's a lot of options. If you look real quick, you will notice there's a lot of red and some green in here. So that effect is largely in red and green. But there are some generic ones, like there's yellow here, here's a yellow green, here's a black ultimate. So there's some ultimates that actually have the effect. So look at your opponent's hand and rip cards out. We have the Pageman, which is a blue ultimate. Where if let's see, auto, when this card attacks, your opponent reveals their hand, right? Then you choose one card from their hand with energy cost 7 or less and place it at the bottom of their deck, and then your opponent draws a card. Ripping a card out of your opponent's hand is always good. But just the most basic thing is just looking at your opponent's hand it's more valuable than ripping something out. It's just a plus to rip something out, obviously. Especially if you notice your opponent has like a combo in their hand. So you rip one of those cards out and now they can't perform that combo. Especially if they were trying to do some type of chain or maybe some type of rival play. You're like, all right, let me rip that card out, but you can't do your strategy. Especially if you notice your opponent has like a one of, if you can take one of your opponent's ultimates out their hands, that's always good. Or their win con, right? This can hit a 7 cost or less, so hitting somebody's Android 17 turn tides would be really good, right? We got this Broly, which has the evolve for 2 green and 3 of anything on top of any Broly. So it doesn't matter the cost of the Broly. It could be a 1-drop Broly. You can evolve this on top of. It's a 30k crit with barrier, which is really nice. Definitely nice to have barrier on a 7-drop. So it's immune to Cast Metal and Frieza. But the main thing, auto, once per turn, burst 5 when this card attacks. And if your leader card is a Broly card, choose one of these abilities. The one we're going with is the second ability, which is if your opponent has 4 more energy in their hand, they reveal their hand, choose one card from their hand, and place into the drop area. So this can rip, can grip anything. You can, obviously rip a negate, for example, a unison, that kind of stuff. Typically with this type of effect, you might want to rip like super combos just to reduce the possibility of your opponent trying to use a super combo, especially if it's the super multicolored ones, like a Zamasu super combo or something like that. This would be a good card to try to rip. Try to use the effect to rip that. But yeah, like floodgate negates, topo, violent rays, stuff like that are stuff that I'll try to hit with this effect. And it's kind of nice to find this, like, oh, cool, because you could play this for 5. So you can obviously use this as part of your strategy to go for game by using this to rip something out of your opponent's hand. It does kind of suck that it's an attack-based hand rip, right? It's an attack-based stuff. So if your opponent has a negate, they can negate this card's attack, right? You still get to rip something out their hand, hopefully another negate, right? So that way your next attacks won't get stopped. But the ability to rip out a negate and then attack is the kind of stuff you want. So there are other cards that can give you that type of effect. I'm not going to go through reading all their effects because that'll just take too long, make the video long, but just want to show the cards mainly and explain the concept of this. Part of why you want to be able to rip your opponent's card from their, look at their hand more importantly than ripping something out of hand. It's just that it lets you do combo math easier, right? Because you get to see what they can and can't combo. Because typically, especially when you're going for game, ideally you want to make sure your opponent doesn't have any blockers, right? Doesn't have any energy untapped, so it'd be hard to play negates by paying energy, right? So you can stop stuff like Topo and Oceanus and stuff like that. So you don't have to worry about them as much because your opponent won't be able to play them. But the free negates, those are the kind of stuff you want to rip through these types of effects, of course. Plus, you want to know if they have them. But ultimately, it's comboing. You want to know how much it will take to combo because you don't want to accidentally be in a scenario, right? We even got unisons, right? We got some unisons here that can look and help us reveal opponent's hand. We got some ultimates, right? We even got a leader that can do it. That let us look at opponent's hand. So that way we know, if we can go for game or not. Now, I mentioned this, a long time ago, but just revisiting the idea of like, oh yeah, let's get back to this. Especially if you put a whole bunch of these cards, because you notice a lot of these cards are red. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to put this Sin Shinron, right? Put this Frieza, because it's a red ultimate. These Vegetas, these Gokus right here, these 8-drop Gokus, obviously the Broly Crown of Retribution, which a lot of people have been using, even the 4-seed head, there's a lot of red cards, so it won't be that hard to put these into a deck. We got these Brolys here, put them into a deck, make them on a red deck, right? Where when you play something, you get to look at your opponent's hand. Play something, you get to look at your opponent's hand, which I am working on a deck like that, which is part of what started this idea of like, oh yeah, let me look for other cards, see if they come in any other color, in case I want to tech them, tech these types of cards into other decks so that I can just have this ability in all my decks, which is, like for example, this, I could tech this into any yellow deck, and now I can always look at my opponent's hand and know when it's the right time to go for game or not, being able to look at your opponent's hand, of course, right, will give you the ability to know, that gives you hand knowledge, which is the most important thing, right? Now you know what your opponent can and can't do, so you know if it's time to go for game or not, or should you, wait a turn, which is always important, because sometimes that is why you lose, because you think it's the perfect time to attack, and then it's not, right? Or sometimes you'll tap out like, yeah, I doubt my opponent will end me out on turn 3, so you tap out on turn 3, and then bang, they end you out, right? Or when you're playing defensively, let's say you play this on turn 3 and then do its -2 ability. You look at your opponent's hand. Now you know what's in their hand. So now you know the potential. So you look at their hands like, ooh, you can do like 6 attack next turn. But I only got like 3 negates in my hand. Oh, that's not good. See, now you know annoyance half the battle. But even though you can't negate all 6 attack, at least you know that they have 6 attack, and one of those could be an overwhelm. So you're like, okay, I got to prepare for that. Some damage, I'm gonna have to take some damage, but I'm gonna have to stop some attacks. But I definitely gotta keep at least 1 negate for that overwhelm. You know what I mean? So you know that because you looked at their hand. Overwhelms tend to be a bit of a surprise, tends to catch people off guard, right? And of course, this effect not only lets you look at your opponent's hand, of course, you can rip stuff out. So you can drastically reduce your opponent's hand size. You'd be like, yeah, let me get rid of that overwhelm. But the overwhelm is more likely to be strong. Let me see. Yeah, this does 25k or less. Yeah, you could hit an overwhelm. Most overwhelms are 25k or less. So you'd be like, yeah, let me hit that overwhelm with this. And now I don't have to worry about the overwhelm. Now I just got to worry about everything else. Obviously, you typically want to negate double strikes. You could take single strike. You don't care if you take single strike because you have a higher chance of surviving. Double strikes are the ones you got to worry about, right? So that kind of stuff. Even look, they got a cell. For those who like to play cell, there's a cell with successor, and he reveals. Your opponent reveals their hand. Choose up to 3 battle cards in their hand. Place them into their drop area. Then choose up to one of your opponent's leader cards and negate its non-keyword skills for the duration of the turn. See, it does some pretty cool stuff. But the fact that this card can rip 3, so you get to look at your opponent's hand and then rip 3. Obviously, we have other cards that can help us rip cards out of our opponent's hand, but being able to look at your opponent's hand and rip cards, very powerful. So this is definitely something to look into, playing this cell, or at least taking this into like the cell deck. I mean, I have a cell deck, so I might want to obviously look into this bad boy. But I do own these androids, so definitely would be fun to play them. But you get the idea is that being able to look at your opponent's hand, see how much combo power they have, see if they have threats in their hands or not, and hopefully get rid of them, right? Or at least now knowing's half the battle, so that's the most important thing. And I'm always with that old concept, knowing is half the battle, right? So, and that's the whole point of these effects, is to let you know, because knowing is half the battle. The other half is win con, right? The other half is having a strategy to win. So now you know what your opponent can and can't do, and now you know if your strategy will succeed or not. And that's the thing when it comes to trying to win, is knowing if it's the right time or not. You want to make sure you have the right time to win. You don't want to lose because of an unforeseen factor. But with these effects, you can see. And knowing is half the battle. Go Joe.